Hello, we're back with the Monterey DUI Defense Center. I'm Matthew Williamson. In this video, we're going to talk about defenses to the actual DUI in California courtrooms. And when we talk about defenses in California courtrooms, normally we have three main types of defenses, and this has been simplified for the purposes of this video. We have complete defenses, defenses to help mitigate, lessen the consequences, and defenses to help undermine the case as a whole and get to the real truth. Because a lot of times in a DUI, we don't get to the real truth. One, complete defenses. Wasn't driving or it wasn't me is a common complete defense. What I mean by that is, let's say you went to your car at the bar and you decide you weren't going to drive and you're just sleeping in the car at the bar. Sometimes people will still get arrested for DUI even though they didn't drink and drive. They drank, but they decided not to drive, but they get arrested anyway. So that's wasn't driving defense example. Wasn't me. I've actually had people charged with a DUI. Turns out they weren't even present at the time. We have to go through and prove it wasn't them. Sometimes it's a different driver, there's an accident. The police arrive later, everybody keeps their mouth shut, so the police either arrest one person or everybody. Next main complete defense is wasn't driving under the influence. This is technical, and if you did have alcohol or drugs, including prescription in your system, maybe you weren't at the level of being impaired. Maybe you weren't at the level of being under the influence. So let's say you're driving at .06, no bad driving, pulled over for expired registration. Believe it or not, I've had clients actually charged for DUI with that. So that's a complete defense if you can show that there was no bad driving, that you weren't under the influence. That can be a complete defense. Also, you have to be careful because sometimes people don't realize you can get a DUI for prescription medications, and you can. So that's just some examples of complete defenses in California. We then have what I call mitigating defenses. Mitigating defenses are defenses that, let's say you're trying to get a better deal. Let's say you're under the influence, but not at the level accused of. We have two enhancement levels that come up a lot in California, 0.20 and 0.15. And both of these get increased, especially the 2.0 gets 0.20 gets increased penalties. The idea is, if you can present a defense and get that under a 0.20, you can save yourself the longer DUI class and potentially more jail. Also, it may lead to avoiding what's called the ignition interlock device. Now, in a first offense, the longer DUI class is a 9-month class versus a 3-month. So a lot of times people want to fight to avoid the 9-month class. You have to understand it's sort of unfair and it's also unreasonable. When you have two people that are just different weights drinking the same amount, they're punished differently depending on their alcohol level. Could you imagine that because you weigh different amount, you get punished differently? Also, the breath machine is not that reliable. There's different defenses to the breath machine. In fact, a 0.20, their own experts will say it could mean a 0.19 or a 0.21. Now, what does that mean? They're going to prosecute you anyways, even though their own experts say, even though the machine's working perfectly, the person can easily be at a 0.19 at the time of the test. Next, mitigating defense isn't a true defense, but a lot of times in a DUI, you can seek treatment. Let's say it's multiple offense DUI. A lot of times if you go into a residential treatment program and show that you're taking affirmative steps to deal with a problem, you can get a better deal. The final mitigating defense is the test wasn't given correctly or problems with the test. Now, you'll notice I didn't put this up for a complete defense. This is a mitigating defense. Meaning a lot of times it leads to a better deal. Just because the machine's screwing up doesn't mean it's going to get the whole case thrown out. If it did, a lot more cases would get thrown out. There's problems with maintenance, calibration, accuracy, keeping the logs, the machine's breaking down. But these usually end up, at least without a trial, being mitigating defenses to get you a better deal. That leads us to the third type of defense, undermining defenses. No legal reason to stop. This does usually lead to a dismissal. However, what it really does is throws out all the evidence, which eventually leads to a dismissal. No legal reason to stop is what we call a motion to suppress. Technically, it's not a motion to dismiss. That's why it's not under complete defense. Another undermining defense. Officer not truthful in this or other cases. It happens. Sometimes you get officers that have a reputation of not telling the truth. Next, we talked about problems with the machine. Not calibrated correctly or maintained properly. You'll see some defenses can be under both undermining defenses and mitigating defenses. Finally, tests not given properly. No 15-minute observation period. That doesn't get the test thrown out for the purposes of the court case. All the defenses we've been talking about here have been for the court case, not the DMV case. So it doesn't get the test thrown out necessarily, but it can lead to undermining their case. So remember, with that said, we have complete defenses, mitigating defenses, undermining defenses. Again, I'm Matthew with the Monterey DUI Defense Center. If you'd like to give us a call, 831-275-0990 for cases in Monterey County. Thank you.